Welcome to the Climate Solutions Showcase Day 2. My first question is, how many of you were here yesterday? About 20 or 30%. Wow. Well, thank you for coming back. For the rest of you, why weren't you here yesterday? Hopefully, we will prove to you that you made a horrible mistake by not coming to this session and hearing yesterday's amazing entrepreneurs. Today, we have a new group, and we're really excited to do two things. We want to have some fun, and we also want to learn about some amazing climate solutions that the entrepreneurs are going to be sharing over the course of the next hour and a half. Hopefully, we will educate you about some really new and exciting things and inspire you to act. Act, in this case, could be investing in these companies. It could be connecting them with partners. It could be buying their products. It could be becoming employees. It could just, you could buy the entire company in certain cases. Why not? Are any of yours for sale yet? No? For the right amount? No? Ellie's like, yeah, buy me out. In case, as I said yesterday, the SEC happens to be in the room, I want you to hear this. While, in fact, all entrepreneurs here are looking for investment and other types of partnership, please do not believe or accept or think even for the slightest moment that this is an actual solicitation or an offer or promotion of an investment opportunity. We are here just for a Climate Solutions Showcase. You will have a chance to meet with the entrepreneurs and everyone else in the room afterwards. We're going to do some networking. So know that that's going to be an opportunity. So how is this going to work? With apologies for those of you who were here yesterday, it's the same setup. We're going to hear briefly from Jimena Caminos, who is one of our entrepreneurs from 2022, and get an update. And then we will dive into entrepreneurial pitches. And each entrepreneur will have 7 minutes to give his or her presentation. And then we have an extremely wonderful set of panelists here who are going to ask them questions, trying to represent the voice of a potential customer or potential investor. So one quick update, Luis Paul, who was on the list for today, at least on some agendas, actually spoke yesterday, so we only have 5 entrepreneurs. But we do have the same exact amazing panelists who will be asking questions from yesterday. They include Matt Hagman, who is, again, the Chief Strategic Initiatives Officer, got it right today, the CSIO at Right to Start, which is a nonprofit that fights to expand entrepreneurship for all. Previously, he was at Opportunity Miami, which is a community-wide initiative that was focused on building the Miami of 2040, which is hopefully a Miami free of flooded streets and full of diverse and extraordinary entrepreneurs. A fun fact that we shared yesterday was that he is working on a book about Professor Longhair, who is a New Orleans jazz legend. Any Professor Longhair friends here today? We got a couple again. It's a different one, right? It's not the same person. But so Matt also mentioned he'd been working on this for 20 years. So did you get any chapters written last night, Matt?
Last night, no. I mean, we're at Aspen Ideas Climate. We're wrapped up in climate in our future.
This could be...
It's coming.
He's full of excuses.
Yes.
This could be a good explanation for why you never get anything done, Matt. Matt is sort of known around town in Miami for often being at these events. Sometimes he gets to be in my role and actually, be the MC. So he has a perpetual good list of excuses. But we're really glad that you're here today. And then next to him is Nayana Miranda, who is the principal of MSH Partners, where they invest at the intersection of climate and inclusion. She, as I mentioned again yesterday, is a native Brazilian, which does mean she can dance, although she did not dance last night at the speaker dinner.
I cannot dance.
Come on. Why don't we... I don't know.
No, I'm good. I can dance. I'm really good. I'm good.
We were at the same speaker dinner last night, and there was, for those of you who weren't there, dancing on tables. So that's the kind of vibe we want for this session, although I'm not sure if these tables could actually manage someone dancing on them. She is also involved in the music business, and as we learned yesterday, she is in a startup band called Love Alchemy. And how did you leave the party early to go practice last night, or what's your excuse?
Yes, we're releasing an album this month, so.
There you go. Would you like to pitch? Do you have 30 seconds to pitch us on your new album? What kind of music will we hear?
It's a stretch. We're releasing our first song this month. Our album is this year. So we started this 3 months ago. I am new to the music scene, and I'm still learning how to sing. So the dancing will come later on.
Right. Well, they, again, as you can see, are pretty engaged and interesting folks, and they will be questioning you guys, so don't get worried. I've told them to ask the hardest questions they possibly can. Just kidding. All right, so let's make this fun, and let's get this started. Is Jimena in the audience? There she is. We would love to hear how things are going with the Reef Line, which is an extraordinary project which is taking place here in the Miami area and has been going on with a couple of years. So I think you'll really enjoy this. Jimena?
Hello, everyone. And first of all, I want to thank Aspen Ideas Climate, because this is our 3rd year here, and they have been so instrumental in helping us advance our agenda and putting our message out there. I want to explain to you all a little bit about what's the Reef Line before giving you some updates on where we're at. So Reef Line is a 7-mile-long artificial reef running parallel to the shore in Miami Beach that we are developing with the city of Miami Beach. We were very lucky, very fortunate that the citizens of the city voted to tax themselves and grant us $5 million to start construction. We are going to be deploying our first modules in end of May, June this year. This is heart of Okeanos, so we're trying to return, this is a whale heart, the heart to the ocean. The Reef Line is located more or less 600 feet offshore. And what we're trying to propose is a more holistic approach towards ocean restoration using art as a tool for change. When the world is numb to numbers, and art has the power to connect people and to tell a more compelling story. So the Reef Line is started by the environmental artworks by some of the world's leading artists. Art has a power of influencing public perception and policy. And everybody flying into Miami Beach will be able to look down through the window of their plane and see our reef down there. So what we're trying to create is economic impact, ecotourism, and educate the public. We create biohabitats. And right now I'm announcing that we're launching an Ocean Justice Scholarship for Gen Z Impact Advisors. The first recipient is Bodhi Patil, who's here in the audience. So we believe that Reef Line has the power to make Miami a beacon for non-traditional climate change solutions, where art leads the way. Phase 1 will be deployed at north of 4th Street with artworks by Leandro Ehrlich, Concrete Coral. I'm going fast, we have 4 minutes. Heart of Okeanos right after. And then the Miami Reef Star by Carlos Betancourt. These are all biohabitats. So we're trying to rebuild what once was there. But Reef Line is not just an artificial reef. To us, it's a platform for cross-disciplinary collaboration where art is the binder. So we put together an incredible team of scientists, engineers, architects, and artists, of course, and we partner with incredible people. Luckily, people resonate a lot with our message. We're making a documentary that will be aired at the Sunday morning show the day after we deploy in May. And we truly believe in the transformative power of art to tell a larger and more exciting story, because sometimes all these, the things that are happening are so dooming, and art really taps into the public sentiment. So I'm going to invite Shelby Thomas. You want to come up, Shelby? And she's going to speak. She's a scientist, and she's going to speak about the importance of artificial reef making and what we call coral thermal resiliency. We can press play in the video. There you go.
Great.
Well, so why artificial reefs? Historically, artificial reefs have been trash of land. Construction pilings, culverts, and ships. The state of Florida actually has a large artificial reef program, and even just off of Fort Lauderdale, they sunk 2 million tires back in the 80s. Well, we're doing things quite differently. We're using today's greatest technologies to advance innovation in designing artificial reefs that actually mimic natural reef habitats. These will aid in scaling, creating the advanced habitats, coastal resilience, and helping restore coral reefs. We're working with corals with different universities to look at assisted migration, and really we can use artificial reefs as a tool. Unfortunately, we can't stop the climate from changing tomorrow or next year. So we're able to actually build a foundation of infrastructure that can be the backbone of reef systems up the coastline, where we can outplant corals now in areas that are in better conditions to grow, in cooler waters, and away from disease. We also have different innovations to help scale restoration. So our goal is to use artificial reefs as a tool for change to help combat the climate crisis and help save our endangered marine species. These are some great renderings of the stars that will be going out, that we are going to be integrating our Coral Lock technologies, which is a threaded frag plug to outplant corals at scale. This will engage community members, citizen science, and imagine if every tourist who came to Miami had the opportunity to outplant a coral on the reef. This also helps create connection. And in my opinion, as a scientist, I think the biggest problem plaguing our environments is the disconnection between people and nature. And this project has the incredible ability to connect that while providing an innovative solution to scale restoration and coastal resilience. We're looking really for the support of all of you guys here. We want everyone to be involved. And this not only benefits the environment, but the communities and supports the economy. You have an incredible opportunity to engage and help us scale this project, not only here in Florida, but around the world. So we hope you can join us.
Hey, to get us started, we have an extraordinary entrepreneur, Diana Vergovichova. I kind of butchered, but I got mostly right. She is a native Slovakian, she is a present Canadian, and she is a forever water activist. Let's give her a very warm welcome and learn about X Atoms.
Hi everyone, my name is Diana and I'm the CEO and the founder of X Atoms. Water is a huge part of my life. When I was 14, I backpacked India with my mom, and that's when I, for the first time ever, saw black rivers. I decided making cleaning polluted water my life mission. At the age of 17, I used quantum chemistry software to discover a new type of a molecule of a substance which has a potential to clean polluted water. I was awarded the World Water Award from the Swedish royal family and a fully funded scholarship to study computer engineering at the University of Toronto. So water brought me to North America, and water pollution is a global issue. Every 4 minutes, a child dies due to water pollution. And not only that, women and girls around the world spend 200 million hours every single day in search for clean water. Therefore, with X Atoms, we are solving 3 SDGs: clean water and sanitation, no poverty, and most important for me, gender equality. So X Atoms is on a mission to clean polluted water around the world. We are using AI and quantum chemistry to discover new materials of substances which can purify polluted water from viruses, bacteria, and pesticides. Quantum chemistry is our secret weapon. It's also the newest technology currently being used for a discovery of new drugs in the cancer treatment space. Now, this is how our materials work. So our materials are powder-like materials, which when put to water after exposure to sunlight, can eliminate organic pollutants in water where the result is a clean drinking water. So this is, the option A is a polluted water, and the option C is after we put our material into water and expose it to sun. So after the sediments are at the bottom, we filter them out, and the result is a clean drinking water without any pesticides or any bacteria and viruses, such as E. coli. Now, our technology involves combination of 2. We are using AI for analysis of large molecular data sets, as well as quantum, which is used for simulations, and that enables us to discover new materials. So our materials are 72% more cost-effective than anything out there. We can purify water 4 times faster, as well as we can eliminate some of the toughest contaminants, which has a potential of saving millions of lives every single year. So our materials can be used as an addition to already existing chemical methods, such as chlorine. This just shows that if we use our materials, it will make the whole process much cheaper and much more effective. Now, our business model involves direct B2B sales to water organizations of the powder, as well as we are creating filters coated in our photocatalyst, which will be reusable and can be given directly to individuals. So there is a huge growing trend in global water and wastewater treatment market. Not only that there are more and more technologies, but also as the global population increase, there is going to be increase in number of people that will lack access to clean drinking water. It's actually not getting better, it's getting worse. So with X-Atoms, we are targeting 2 billion people currently that lack access to clean drinking water. And more specifically, we are focusing on some of the worst hit countries, which is the population of 353 million people who have only access to everything that X-Atoms can clean. We have created several partnerships in Nigeria, India, and we are expanding more and more to have a greater impact. So this is just a proof that water tech is a really scalable opportunity, even though it's the least represented industry in the between the climate industries, with only one partnership of wastewater treatment plant, we can generate $219,000 every single year, which is serving 100,000 people. So we are 3 co-founders. All of us are engineers. I have a computer engineering background with a specialization in AI. My co-founder is also an engineer with 9 years of experience. He's there. And then we are also working with a 3rd co-founder. So how we compare ourselves to other competitors, we can remove pesticides in much more affordable way. But not only that, when we use our materials in the polluted water, the water does not sting anymore, and people can drink it as they would drink normal clean water from tap. So we received our first grant investment from Alexis Ohanian, the founder of Reddit. We also have $200,000 already committed. We are part of a Compute for Climate Fellowship, where our research and development are fully funded by UNESCO, International Research Center on AI, and AWS. Now, we have finalized our prototypes. We are filing for patents, as well as we are currently testing our materials in the labs in Toronto, in Canada. So I'm asking you today for mentorship, whoever is in a climate tech space, specifically in the water tech. I'm looking to work with more female mentors as well. And we are raising $1.5 million, accepting any size of checks, so come talk to me afterwards. Yeah, this is how we'll be using our money. I'm not supposed to say it, so. So our next steps will go towards our first sales in Nigeria and Kenya, starting in the second half of 2024, and we will be finalizing our regulations as well. Our team is supported by world class of scientists and advisors. We are working with Professor Jeffrey Ozin, who is the father of nanochemistry. We are also working with the head of climate tech at AWS. Thank you so much for being part of our water journey.
Awesome, thank you. A very inspiring presentation. Love to see women in quantum chemistry. That is badass. Quick questions on your current, you mentioned your projections that you have for your income statement. Can you talk a little bit about your current partnerships and how you're looking to partner with them, and then also what your pipeline of clients could be?
Yeah, so our first revenue stream is a B2B direct-to-water organization. So we will be working with water organizations, and we have 5 partnerships already. That means that once we have finalized the testing, we can start selling them the materials directly to those partners. which are in Nigeria. We have some in Kenya, and then we also work with foundation coming out of Europe, like Netherlands, Sweden, that directly work with NGOs in Africa, so we can get closer to the water organizations there.
Okay, thanks.
Diana, really enjoyed it. That was awesome. And really,
Thank you.
obviously, you're solving a really big problem, which is so inspiring to see. You're launching in 2 countries initially, as you described it. As you expand, how high are the regulatory hurdles? I mean, is this, in your business, is this just signing a contract with an organization working in country, a water authority in that particular country, or are there actually some regulatory hurdles that make expansion, difficult?
I think that the most important is getting all the required regulations from the Health Ministry of Canada. And then from there, once we have proven that it works and it's not causing any health hazards for people that will drink it, like we already have proven it, but we just need the official documentation, then it will be much simpler to sell it to most of the countries around the world, which are, some African countries will be definitely harder, but some of them are going to be easier, as we already spoke with them.
They're fairly universal standards that apply, yeah.
Yeah.
And then so piggybacking off that, can you expand a little bit on the life cycle of the products and how that would work?
Yeah, so the cycle is that we have this powder which is put into water, and then when exposed to radiation, it can eliminate the pollutants in water, and then it's filtered out. And for the filters, it would have 2,000 uses, so you can reuse it like 2,000 times with the specific volume of water, and that would be the reusable part that we are working on. For the powders, it's the water treatment plant would be using it as part of their already existing chemicals, like such as chlorine. So where that comes to process, that's when they will be using our powders.
And have you been able to test, I know you're still in process with that, but have you been able to test the long-term risks associated with it?
Yes, and we have been, and we are working with labs at UBC and U of T. Working with several professors. The professor that is our advisor, he's been in the space for the past 60 years. So he has a lot of experience with the specific type of material that we are developing.
Can you talk a little bit more about the revenue model? How do you price this particular product service that you're offering?
Yes, so we are selling the material around 11 cents per liter. And from each liter, we can make 3 cents. So that's multiplied, yeah.
And can you go deeper into the customer, the competitive analysis as it compares to the other folks?
Yeah, so the other teams, they are usually really bad at removing pesticides from water, and that's the nature of our chemicals, is that we can capture volatile chemical substances, and those are the ones that usually cause the odors in water. And many people use these tablets, the famous tablets that you put into water, campers, people in Africa. But as I spoke with them, the water is has a white color, stinks bad. So people actually opt for the polluted water rather than drinking something weird, something they cannot get used to. So we want to make it as natural for them as possible when we are using our materials.
So in the 30 seconds that we've got left, remind us again when we'll be seeing the product will go to market first, and just give us a sense of what the ideal sort of expansion would look like. Obviously, starting in Africa, is it trying to expand across the continent, or how do you think about that?
Yes, so first of all, we will start, we are planning to start with our first sales in the second half of 2024. And we would be looking at Africa, but also at indigenous population in Canada, because they have access to very polluted water in Canada. So we will be working with the indigenous population in Canada, as well as Nigeria is our first target country. And then as we expand there, throughout the Nigeria, we will be looking at several districts, and then we will be moving to more and more districts in Nigeria, and then we will copy it to other countries in Africa.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. And now for something completely different as we move from water to big trucks. I am excited to introduce Rocco Calandruccio, who is the CEO of Current EV Motors. He is a native of Tennessee, now a fellow Austinite. He wants to make the world safe, starting with Texas highways, for old big trucks and vans that have been converted to electric vehicles. So give it up for Rocco.
Hey y'all, how we doing? Everybody good? All right. Rocco Calandruccio here, coming from Austin, Texas. Who's excited to talk about cars? Yeah? All right, good. Okay, that's what I'm here to do. As Randall said, I'm Rocco Calandruccio, Austin, Texas. I'm the founder and CEO of Current EV Motors. We are dedicated to simplifying the process of converting a car from gasoline to electric. I really believe we're at a stage in human advancement where technology has caught up with our mechanical needs. We've really got to stop treating these machines as disposable entities. I think we have an opportunity, incredible opportunity right now. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit of my personal background. We're going to go through the opportunity at hand, and then we're going to talk about the solution that we've come up with, talk about the impact that that's going to have, and then obviously we'll wrap up with a Q&A session. So I'd like to start with a little family history here. This was my great uncle's Ford dealership. He was the very first Ford dealer in Denver, Colorado. He was taking in horse and buggy in on trade for the Model T and tractors. So this is talk about an energy transition. This is what was going on back then. My grandfather also became a Ford dealer. And so this obsession started, in my family. My parents took a slightly different path. They became architects, and they started an architectural firm in our garage in Tennessee. And so this is me in their architectural firm. I basically spent all my time drawing cars, but also learned how to build and create things physical, and got very good at making physical things. But Tennessee also had a lot of other lessons for me. Every day to and from school, we drove by these salvage yards, and if there's anybody in the audience from rural America, you're familiar with this site. This is where cars go to die. They go to die by the millions, and I'll give you some numbers later on, but it's incredibly wasteful. The industry is wildly wasteful, but I was still obsessed with cars. And so I went on to become an industrial designer. I went to Art Center College of Design and was around some of the greatest automotive minds of our generation and learned how to design and create automobiles and products of all kinds. And I wanted to show you a project that I had with my first job out of college. I know this is not climate related at all, but I wanted to show it to you. This is a group that I worked with in Missoula, Montana called American Expedition Vehicles, and we were taking the inefficient, low-powered motors out of these vehicles and putting more efficient, more powerful motors into these vehicles. We made a product that we sold all over the world. These were for specifically built vehicles for the overland industry. So it's highly technical, highly engineered product that we productize. So back to why I'm here and what I want to talk about, what I really want to focus on. It's the wasteful nature of this industry. I'm not sure if you're aware, but every year we make 85 million cars, and we throw away the exact same number, 85 million cars. And so if you do the math real quick, that equates to 860 million tons of CO2 that go into the environment just making and remaking cars. Now, if you compare that to the amount of carbon that goes into the air from the cars themselves, it's more than double. So making and remaking cars is a tremendous problem in the world today. But to understand the problem, you have to look at the architecture of the automobile. The architecture of the automobile is pretty much the same since the very beginning. You've got a chassis, you got axles, you got a motor, a transmission. It's been made the same. It looks different on the outside, ear to ear, but it's fundamentally the same. So where's the problem? The problem's right here. The engine and transmission is composed of some 2,000 moving parts. And any one of those parts goes wrong, and this car dies. And you find yourself back at the car dealership signing up for another 6 years of debt. And so it's a cycle that keeps going. Planned obsolescence was designed by General Motors in the early 1900s. So this is the problem, and this is what we're trying to address. So what's the solution? Well, there's a whole industry growing right now, the EV conversion industry. And it's growing quite rapidly. It's projected to be $10.5 billion by 2032. It's about 60-40 split between commercial vehicles and passenger vehicles. So we are actually focused on the commercial side of this industry. Total addressable market here in the United States, about 900,000 vehicles are replaced every year. So that's what we're focused on. But there's still a problem in the EV conversion industry. The EV conversion industry is composed of lots of little shops that are doing a low volume of vehicle conversions. And because of that, they don't have the same kind of access that the automakers have to good parts. So they're stuck using these motors that were designed for like forklifts and heavy machinery, things like that. And they stick them on transmissions, and then they have to put the motors where the batteries or where the gas tank used to be, or where the engine used to be in the vehicle's crumple zone. So this is not ideal. So what we designed was a system that is more efficient. Put the batteries in the center, motors on the axles, kind of the same way that Rivian and Tesla does it. And then we patented this idea. We patented in the United States and Canada, so we now have 4 patents in the US and Canada for this technology. So it's a simple, fast, and affordable system that comes in at about 30 grand less than it takes for you to buy a brand new EV. So just one example, this is one of our contracts that we have for the Ford Econoline. And the budget they had for this vehicle was between $55,000, $65,000. We were able to come in at $35K and meet their budget for that. So we're repurposing these vehicles. This one vehicle can go across many different platforms. Our model is different than the way the industry is set up right now. We are not one shop with one building doing these conversions. We are a product company. We create these products, and then we send them out all over the world to a dealer network. And so this is very scalable. This is how we grow. This is how we influence more and more people, and we change the industry. So our goal, our 10-year impact goal, is to convert 10% of used vehicles to electric. We want to eliminate 280 million tons of CO2 emissions from vehicles, and we want to empower a workforce of 100,000 plus jobs worldwide to do this work. And so we're very excited about this vision, and we hope you can join us in our journey. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Back to the Future reference.
Yeah, love it, Rocco. That was awesome. Really, really exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
And really enjoyed your presentation. I guess where to start thinking about is, here in Miami, for example,
Yeah.
there's been a whole discussion about transitioning the entire fleet of municipal buses, county buses.
Right.
And it's always been talked about as buying new buses.
Right.
By the way, the school system's doing the same thing.
Correct.
It's not even been part of the conversation about
Right.
converting the existing fleet.
That's right.
Why is that so?
I'm not sure exactly. And I approached, I can't recall her name. She's at the White House yesterday. I'm going to talk to her about that. But yeah, I don't know why it hasn't been part of the conversation. I think because traditionally it's been kind of a smaller industry and it hasn't made a lot of noise. People aren't aware of it. I've actually talked to a number of people during this conference that didn't even know it was possible, right? There is this perception that we've got to throw away what we have and we have to get the new. But I can tell you right now, it's possible. I drive one every day, So I hope that answers your question, but I really don't know why.
Yeah, is it, just a quick follow-up, is it, your thesis, what you laid out here, is that it is more affordable to convert rather than buy new, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're not making a new car. You're only putting new parts in it.
And so is one of the primary challenges as you're building current EV motors is really sort of an education marketing one?
It's education, but maybe I need to explain a little bit. So there is the industry that's growing right now, and if you went to one of these shops and you wanted your vehicle converted to electric, it would be very expensive. It'd be around $100,000 for you to do that. And the reason is because it's a bespoke, custom process. They're going to take in your Alfa Romeo or whatever it is that you have. They're going to take the gas parts out. They're going to scan it. Then they're going to engineer all the parts that go in. It's going to take them about 6 months. It's a lot of labor. And then you've got expensive batteries that are going into it. So it's only top 1% that can afford this right now. The difference between us and them is that we pick the highest volume vehicles, right? And we do all of that R&D beforehand. So we pay for that through one vehicle. Then we scale the product. And then once you scale that product, then it brings the unit prices down. And then it's more of a plug-and-play type solution. We're not splicing wires together anymore. You bolt it into the vehicle, and then you can plug the things in, versus highly skilled electrical engineering that needs to happen. This is the kind of work that happens in a Firestone or any sort of mechanic type shop can do that work.
Follow up. And just as a
He's
very
more
quick,
into cars than I am.
I know, I can get kind of nerdy
obviously,
quick
for
here.
this to
So
work, scale is really, really important.
Scale's
Talk
very
about
important.
the sectors that you're focused on. Is this school buses? Is
Yes.
this buses and transit systems? Is this trucking companies? What are your target markets?
right now we are very much focused on commercial vehicles, right? We are in conversations right now with TCEQ, which is the organization that distributes the VW settlement funds. And so we are focusing that effort on school buses specifically in Texas. So school buses, transit vehicles, the airport kind of shuttle buses, things like that are high volume opportunities that allow us to scale this and then to grow this across many different platforms. So yeah.
And where are you then currently with the traction that you have so far?
I'm sorry?
Traction.
Traction. So we have a contract for 12 of these Econoline vans, and we have a waiting list of probably 50 vintage vehicle customers that want conversions done. And then we have those school bus. We're very close on those contracts as well, too.
Okay.
So-
And then what would be your biggest challenges to scaling?
Funding. We need the kind of support to really get to that level where we can buy at these levels. I mean, I'll give you an example here. I'm in conversations with Dana, which is the major provider of OEM parts to Chrysler and Ford and these others. And they want to know, okay, how many orders do you have, right? And once I have that critical mass of orders, then I have access to those parts, and then I can start creating those solutions. So yeah, it's that kind of getting to that next level where you go from buying down here to buying up here, and then you price cuts. That's kind of the challenge we have. So I probably over time.
No, you're good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you all.
Actually, really. All right. Next up, we have an extraordinary entrepreneur who was born in St. Lucia and grew up looking at beaches that were filled with sargassum seaweed. And his vision now is to take that waste product and turn it into world-class crop protection and crop nutrition products. So please give it up for Johannan Dujon.
Hello. There we go. Hi there, everyone. My name is Johannan Dujon. I am the founder and CEO of Algas Organics, and we are a climate tech solutions company. So our mission is to nearshore cost-effective climate tech solutions. I know that's a mouthful. I'm going to explain what that means shortly. Our focus is the plastic, paper, and wastewater industries, because these industries have a serious emissions problem, contributing almost 20% of global greenhouse gas emissions per year. But where there are big problems, there are also massive opportunities. So these segments represent over $664 billion worth of opportunity that can be disrupted with the right technology. And we believe we have the right technology. But before I get into that, I wanted to highlight a weird correlation that we saw coming from the Caribbean. So Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, all of these mega companies that tend to go on to do great tended to start in garages. Well, I was not fortunate enough to have a garage, so I started in my parents' balcony. But it's very interesting that very shortly after that, we ended up being recognized by Forbes for what we're doing with sargassum across the world. And so I'm going to roll back the velvet curtains now. What we have here is a patented technology platform that allows us to use this brown stuff that you're seeing on our screen. And if you may not be aware, it's called sargassum seaweed. If you're from Florida, you know. This washes up on the beaches by the millions of tons. And the biggest barrier to entry for using this free biomass has always been heavy metals. So our patented technology platform allows us to eliminate heavy metals and extract polymers and fibers from the sargassum to then disrupt and decarbonize these other industries that I mentioned earlier. Now, why is this significant? It's very important. The global seaweed industry right now, 97% of it is in Asia. And with what's happening geopolitically now, there's tons of supply chain disruptions. We're now proposing to use a new material located in Florida and the Caribbean so we can nearshore that value chain, offer low-cost climate tech solutions, and of course tap into that new resource, as I mentioned. There's 15 to 24 million metric tons of free material floating around that we have access to. So I want us to focus our attention today on the paper and pulp industry, because apart from fossil fuels, paper and pulp tends to contribute the most to greenhouse gas emissions per year. And essentially, the market is ripe for disruption and ripe for, it's in upheaval, frankly. You're seeing pulp mill closures that are driving shortages in wood pulp or wood fiber. You have new regulations that are stopping paper companies from accessing raw material, and consumers like you and I who want more sustainable products. And so in comes our solution. That same brown seaweed that you saw, we're able to fast track by 300x. So we can produce fiber from seaweed 300 times faster than cutting down trees. It's 100% more sustainable because you're not cutting down trees. It's coming from seaweed that's a nuisance. And it is 40% cheaper than wood fiber, and equal in performance. So at scale, we're going to be able to, in phase one, using the seaweed fiber, prevent 7.15 million metric tons of CO2 from being emitted by stopping 20 million trees from being cut down. By blending our seaweed fiber with wood pulp, you need less trees. That's the benefit. But at scale, what's happening is we're going to be able to reduce global deforestation by 40% is our hairy, audacious goal. And you're looking at 0.5 gigaton of emission savings per year. And here's how we do that. The combination of our patented technology, seaweed, and unlocking agricultural waste fibers is going to allow us to have access to almost 540 million metric tons of fiber, and global demand for fiber from cutting down trees was only about 200 million in 2021. So imagine a world very soon where the paper that you use, no trees need to be cut down to produce it, period. So is this the only material that can be used to transition? No, you have bamboo, you have hemp, but these tend to be high in lignin and very expensive to process, so not very attractive. And are there other seaweed companies? Most of them use, absolutely, there are. Most of them use seaweed from Asia, and those who use the type of seaweed that we're looking at, we're still the first movers in that space in terms of fibers and wastewater. And the tailwinds, frankly, are right there. It's not headwinds. You're seeing what's happening at COP, you're seeing what's happening around us, so now is the right time, we believe. Now, our business model is very, very simple. Imagine a world where we get paid by the government and hotels to collect our raw material, so then it's free, essentially, because we're being paid to collect it. We turn around and we convert that raw material into fibers that we then co-create products with massive companies. So in terms of traction, I'm proud to announce, if we may not be aware, we were just the recipients of Miami-Dade's Innovation Prize, so we're now going to be piloting our solution in Miami next month for the next few months, so you're going to see our beaches a lot cleaner. And also, we have 6 pilots right now with commercial partners who have raised over $40 million, 2 LOIs signed, and 1 being signed right now with a multi-billion-dollar personal care company. And I want to announce as well that we've also been selected for the Earthshot Prize for 2024. The team is, thank you. The team is pretty small. We have Joy, who's our fractional CFO, myself, and Morgan, who's out there in the audience. And we're going to be plugging in some of those gaps as we scale up with materials scientists, polymer engineers, et cetera. Our ask is super simple. We would love investor intros. We're raising a $6 million seed round. So if you are an investor, or if you know investors who might be interested in climate tech, let's talk. Or potential partner introductions would also be great. If you know a company that could benefit from what we're doing, and we can scale this up and clean your, especially if you're from Miami, and keep those beaches cleaner, hit us up. We're all good. So I want to end here and say that the circular seaweed economy begins with you. We look forward to collaborating with you, and we look forward to this pilot in Miami. It's go time. Thank you.
Love your presentation, love your story, very inspiring. I'd love to hear a little bit of the backstory, if you can share how you got from creating this in your balcony to whatever process that you can share about the patented technology.
Absolutely. So what happened was we collected the sargassum from the beaches back home. I spread it out in the yard, and my mom went crazy because she was wondering what we were doing. But what we were trying to do was to extract beneficial compounds from the seaweed. We did that, but we realized, wow, there's tons of heavy metals in there, and that's probably going to be a barrier for entry. So we spent 12 months working with the University of the West Indies, working with renowned scientists from Canada, finding a way to tweak and find a microbe that can actually use the heavy metals as energy. So you're getting rid of the heavy metals and breaking down the cell walls at the same time. So that's what we were able to do. And that was then, we were then granted the patent in Canada, USA, and Europe because of this innovation.
Awesome, thanks.
Terrific, Johanna. This is just it's so exciting. And obviously, you're solving a problem that's really important to us here in South Florida and many other places in the world. We'd love to dig a little deeper on how you collect the product, right? I mean,
Right.
You're collecting it from beaches. You then have to transport it, presumably, to some manufacturing facility, which you're then converting it into either now paper or fertilizer. Feels like a pretty expensive process, one that's logistically challenging, and as you expand, will require having lots of different manufacturing facilities. How does that work? How do you think about that in terms of growing the company?
Great question. So an example is the pilot that we're doing in Miami. In most jurisdictions, you have a contractor already collecting and dumping the sargassum in a landfill. All that changes is instead of them taking it from the beach and dumping it and paying the county paying a tipping fee, we get the material instead. So we would then receive that. We're not collecting, the counties and the contractors are. They're then bringing us that material to our processing facility, and we handle it with the utmost attention to safety. We prevent any leakage of heavy metals. We treat everything, we remediate everything in-house. And then what comes out on the other side is the fiber, the bioplastic polymer, and the wastewater treatment stuff, and fertilizer.
So as a quick follow-up, so for example, here in Miami, are you going to have to build a facility where it will be processed? And that is, and with each market you go into, will you have to replicate that?
Right. So for Miami, yes, we're going to do a small, modular container system just for the pilot. But as we scale up, yes, we're going to have to build or lease a substantial space to receive all of the material. Some countries receive more sargassum than others. And so we've been in the market for about 10 years. We know where the main hotspots are. So we will have a central processing hub, likely Miami, where we can receive sargassum from other areas that we're paid to collect it and process it right here, creating jobs for the local economy.
So literally like flying it from different...
well, shipping it. Yeah, so we dry it, bale it, and ship it out for processing here in Miami.
Got it, yeah.
And so then you mentioned that the impact would be saving 20 million trees because they wouldn't be using the materials that they're currently using now.
Correct.
So how do you see them transitioning to your material versus the traditional routes?
Great question. So what's happening now, this LOI that we're finalizing with this massive company, they're using wood pulp from the boreal forests, right? So what they want to do is to reduce their footprint. They're also having pulp issues in terms of getting the materials. So our fiber, what's left after our process, what would be our waste, those fibers are then bought by this company. It goes to the lab, they treat it, and then it's in a form sort of like paper. You then blend this fiber with the wood, so you need less wood, of course, and now you have a finished product that's stronger, that is cleaner, more sustainable. So that's how that works.
And that agreement is in place, you said?
We're very close to closing that off. Yes.
And so as a final question, did you have a follow-up?
No, go ahead.
The, right now, if I understand correctly, essentially there are two products that are sort of the outputs of this. That is fertilizer and then paper. Is the thinking focusing on those two areas of what turning the sargassum into? Are there other products as you think about the next 5-10 years of Algas Organics?
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is the one output from our process actually is what's making all of these new products. So this one output that we have the patent for can then be dehydrated and turned into a fiber, can then be used as a liquid, as a fertilizer. There's so many use cases for it. So we're going to close out the pipeline that we have. And as we build out our team after the raise, we're going to have material scientists come on who can then say, maybe we can make biofuel from this. There might be other applications, but we want to close out on the pipeline that we have and grow revenue first.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next, joining us from the Miami of the North, Rochester, New York, we have my new friend, Ellie Rustling, who is the co-founder and CEO of Micro Era Power. So in addition to being an expert in developing long-term storage solutions, I can attest personally that she is quite adept at holding her drink and a small plate while providing napkins to other people who are less adept. So give it up for Ellie.
Okay, what an introduction. Good morning. I'm Ellie Rustling, CEO and co-founder of Micro Era Power. Thank you for being here today. We are working with support from the U.S. Department of Energy, NYSERDA, the Electric Power Research Institute, and our investors. We are a leading innovator in the space of tunable thermal energy storage for resilient commercial heating and cooling. So storage clearly is a key piece of the energy transition, and I'm really talking about energy storage beyond batteries. Our focus is on tunable thermal energy storage. And so if storage is the answer, what's the question? That really depends on your perspective. If you're a city planner, you might be asking yourself, how do I provide for resilient, safe cooling stations, heating for my citizens to keep everybody well protected? If you're a building owner, you might ask yourself, how can I avoid the consumption of peak electricity and control for my energy costs? Because that cost of peak electricity is going through the roof. If you're a developer creating sustainable communities, you might want to ask, how am I going to do that better and reduce my carbon footprint? If you're a geothermal developer, how can I bring those benefits to my customers at a viable price point and with a reasonable footprint? And if you're an electric utility, you're asking yourself, how do I integrate all these renewable energies, enhance my grid capacity at the same time there are increasing demands for electrification of building heat, electrification of transportation? It's a really challenging question. And Micro Era Power Solutions speaks to all of this. We are focused on the built environment because 40% of global energy is consumed by buildings and half of that goes for meeting thermal loads. And why Micro Era Power? Because we have really solved for footprint, flexibility, and value. For heating and cooling buildings, current storage technologies fall short. You have, for example, batteries that are expensive and short-lived, hot or chilled water, that has a massive footprint. Or if you look at ice storage, that's great for keeping people cool, but we are moving away from fossil fuels towards electrification of heat. Everybody's getting heat pumps. How can we provide for that? Stay tuned. And quick note, existing heat storage has very low capacity. So Micro Era Power has solved for all that, and I'd like to share with you a demonstration video which the Electric Power Research Institute made for us just last quarter.
Decarbonization of building heating and cooling is critical to address climate change, but presents two major challenges. First, extreme weather compromises heat pump capacity and efficiency, driving increasingly severe grid peaks. And second, renewable energy resources are often not time-aligned with demand. Storage is essential. We understand the challenges. Building electrification and transportation electrification are increasing demand, while renewables are making supply less reliable. Thermal energy storage brings flexibility to shift loads from peak to off-peak and from fossil-intensive to renewable-intensive periods. Enter Micro Era Power's Therma Plus, a tunable thermal energy storage system which stores both heat and cooling. We are safer and more efficient than lithium batteries and have 1/10 the footprint of hot or chilled water storage.
This technology can start entering the market immediately, complementing optimization of heating and cooling equipment, such as heat pump or geothermal energy. It's exciting to see technology that can tune the material to the right temperature and minimize the space required for thermal storage. MicroEra can do both simultaneously, and that provides space savings, cost savings by using energy arbitrage, and energy savings by optimizing HVAC equipment. Con Edison R&D is very excited to sponsor this project and see how we can adapt it to our market.
MicroEra Power's vision is for cost-effective, resilient, decarbonized buildings in clean, sustainable, electrified cities. This drives our mission for mass deployment of our game-changing tunable thermal energy storage systems to enable renewable energies, a resilient grid, and healthy living.
The need for a thermal storage technology that can provide that flexibility to thermal loads on peak days is only increasing. The ability to provide that flexibility will really add some tremendous resiliency to the grid in the face of such extreme weather events.
MicroEra Power's lab-scale pilot, supported by EPRI, Con Edison, and New York Power Authority, demonstrates the performance of our material formulations for both stored heat and stored cooling. Our unique hardware and software technologies are de-risked and proven. We plan to raise funds from strategic partners, including utilities, to pilot and demonstrate in the next 2 years and to launch commercially in late 2025.
Our software can transform HVAC load flexibility into a resource for managing renewables-intensive grids.
Our team is strong in our commitment to innovation, resilience, and impact as we develop the critical missing piece for this transition to reliable and sustainable energy systems.
Thank you. So we're working really hard, and ThermaPlus, it's not just the special set of materials, it's a system which involves hardware, software, and service. And it's that tunability that makes us relevant to so many different climates and building types. It's a globally relevant product. We have just secured our first major patent with 27 claims awarded, and we filed now for global coverage. We have pilots planned in 2024 and have recently been invited for even more demonstrations because this is such a key enabling technology. And I look forward to speaking with people. I'm delighted to be accompanied by my colleagues, James Grieve and Kim Kiefer here in the room. Please come find us in the corner after the presentations or at our booth, and happy to take questions.
Thank you. Great presentation. Quick question around who your current target is and what current milestones do you have?
Sure. So our current targets, obviously, you know, the lowest hanging fruit, we're targeting those areas where there are either political incentives, where there may be a ban on natural gas connections, so they are forced to use heat pumps. And if you're in a climate with weather, you know, extreme weather, those heat pumps will not keep up. And so integrating our thermal energy storage allows the heat pump to be more efficient, more expansive in the temperatures it can serve. So those areas with bans on natural gas, those areas with high peak electric costs, because that's where the energy cost savings can really be maximized. And we're looking at areas where there may be heavy cooling loads, but ice storage is not effective. Our technology is much more effective than ice storage and much more efficient.
And where are your milestones right now?
Oh, key milestones. So we're very fortunate to be working with support from Department of Energy and New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. Our first pilot will be installed at Smith College's campus, demonstrating our integration with a geothermal system. The second pilot will be at a commercial building in Rochester, New York, demonstrating that integration with an air source heat pump.
Super exciting, Ellie. And really enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you.
Can you give us a sense about the savings that are achieved, say whether it's Smith College or this commercial building you're going into, it's a for instance, office building or something, and how quick the payoff is by implementing a system like this?
I am so glad you asked that. I'm going to back it up just real quick. Obviously, energy storage is really, really important. And people think energy storage, they think batteries, and those batteries are just so expensive. We have solved for that because our materials cost is pennies on the dollar, does not require all the fire suppression. And so our target installed cost would be, oops, it's not advancing, $80 per kilowatt hour, which is much less expensive than the installed cost for ice storage or batteries. And so depending on the rate structure, it's different all over the place, we're targeting areas where our payback would be in less than 3 years. And it's a system with a 25-year life expectancy. So for instance, in a hotel that we modeled, 2 of our large tanks would pay for itself in just under 3 years and provide over $1 million of energy cost savings to that commercial building. Target areas, for example, in New York City, local law 97, very high peak of energy costs, that key payback areas for us.
And what's sort of the scale we're talking about? Like, I mean, Smith College, a college campus or
Yes.
an office building up.
So we ran some numbers. Smith College is very much a front runner in this energy transition, demonstrating what can be done on a college campus, transitioning away from steam and to low temperature hot water, a full geothermal retrofit. Now, they started a little before we are ready to be on the scene completely. They're doing a 3-phase project, but we ran the numbers. Their cost for this project is mostly driven by the extensive ground loop they need to drill. Were they to integrate our system in that project, they could reduce the scope of that ground loop by 70% and save $40 million. So it's bringing geothermal benefits in a much smaller footprint and at a viable price point. So we're feeling a lot of pull in those areas of campus retrofits, district, and community systems.
So what are some of the regulatory challenges that you face with that, and how are you addressing it?
Sure. Regulatory challenges are so interesting. Matter of fact, I was just speaking with some people at the Brooklyn Navy Yard where we're in conversation about a demonstration. And they said, Ellie, do you have all your UL licensing and all your codes and permits and all that? And I said, no, this is early stage. We are putting our first demonstrations out there, and we're allowed to do that without the UL, permits in place for demonstration purposes. But it's been really remarkable how much support there is to help us navigate that, because people want this system. And the building codes don't always keep up with new technologies, but our materials are safe and non-flammable, so we see very low barriers. I mean, we will be able to navigate this. It is a process, but it's not a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we are to the last, but definitely not the least. People feeling good out there? Anyone? Michelle Berger, are you inspired yet? 100%. Just to have some fun. Michelle kind of makes this whole thing happen. So if you love this, clap for her. If you don't like it, come and talk to me. Does that work? Well, I'm excited to have the opportunity to introduce Philip Michael Weiner, who is the co-founder of Recapture. He clearly loves the forest and has been figuring out how he can protect it alongside women and indigenous farmers in Latin America. And he has a really cool, what seems to be personal tagline, which maybe you'll touch on, which is harmonizing Generation Heal. So hopefully we can do some harmonizing, we can do some healing, and we can reduce some carbon. And Philip, Michael, excited to have you here.
Hi everyone, I'm Philip Michael Weiner, the co-founder of Recapture, and so today I want to share with you how we partner with women and indigenous farmers in Latin America to basically take degraded pieces of land, we turn them into thriving forest carbon projects that triple their incomes, capture 3 times the CO2 of traditional reforestation, and generate institutional quality returns all at the same time. I actually started this journey with my co-founder back in 2017, and we'd spent the last 15 years scaling companies in Silicon Valley, but also working on conservation finance projects all around South America. And in 2017, we saw some things that just didn't quite add up. About a quarter of the Global 500 had made some sort of net zero commitment at the time. And in the US, we actually didn't know how much the Fortune 500 emitted. And so without having that data, we ended up publishing the first ever report on Fortune 500 emissions, and we really had some big insights from that. One of the biggest insights, and this may sound controversial, was that voluntary carbon markets were destined to fail. And essentially what I mean by that is carbon credits are a cost-based model that don't necessarily incentivize the largest emitters to remove their carbon emissions at scale. For example, for balance sheet sensitive companies, a company like Unilever, which has 63 million tons in annual carbon emissions, you multiply that number times $20 for a carbon credit, that's billions of dollars every single year that they're going to spend without a return. Another thing that we saw was that there was a shortage of projects. And realizing that what's actually holding us back was not the lack of technologies. In fact, we realized that we're essentially drowning in those technologies, that the solutions exist, but what we lack were the bankable project models that would incentivize companies and project developers to remove those carbon emissions at scale. And a really big insight that we couldn't miss at all after being on the ground was that you can't solve for climate without solving for poverty. Many of the smallholder farmers that we would speak with in these emerging markets where all these carbon projects end up taking place, they are working in crops like tobacco, corn, sorghum, soya, and cattle, and they're stuck in these vicious cycles of poverty, earning around $3,000 US per year, subjected to harsh working conditions and really bad agrochemicals. And another thing is this sort of whack-a-mole paradox that we were running into, where you can't really just reforest a piece of land without thinking about the income of the activities that were taking place on that land. And so if you take that land out of the equation, these farmers would end up going down the road and cutting down another piece of forest. And so we really saw that we needed a systems design solution. And so we pioneered what we call a dual stream asset model. And these are project models that are efficient at capturing carbon, but not reliant on carbon credits. So instead, these dual carbon assets are designed to produce embodied carbon materials that can produce things like wood that are sold into very large, very liquid markets that are underwritable. Now, we share in the revenue from the project with the actual farmers themselves, and then we reinvest a bit back into co-benefits activities as well, creating a financially attractive impact asset class that combines profitability with large-scale environmental and social impact. So this dual stream model is what we believe is going to mobilize the billions of dollars in capital that's pretty much waiting on the sidelines, ring-fenced for climate action. So our dual stream model is called Terra Nova, and it's a method of harvesting, regenerating sustainable eco-timber while restoring soil biodiversity and capturing CO2 at scale. So we do this by utilizing a patented but hybridized, so it's a sterile species of hardwood tree that is very fast growing. It produces very valuable harvestable eco-timber in just 5 years. But a unique trait is that we can regenerate these trees up to 7 times out of their own stump without disturbing below ground CO2. And so as the trees grow, they're going to store carbon in the living root systems and the soil, and then generate carbon credits at the same time. The wood is extremely valuable, so it has very high insulative values. It's 200 times lighter than oak, 100 times lighter than pine, grows much faster, and it doesn't rot or warp. A unique aspect is in de-risking these project models is we've already secured multi-million-dollar offtake agreements for the wood at the time of planting. And so at harvest, the wood is processed and then pre-sold into the mass timber building industry where it's going to replace higher footprint materials like cement and steel. So we can simultaneously generate institutional quality returns and project level economics and long-term profit sharing for the local community. So how does it work? We've actually developed essentially a farming partnership contract. This contract enables farmers to actually have ownership in the project long-term. So farmers bring the land, the local knowledge, human capital, and the stewardship, and we essentially bring the project franchise. They get access to the patented seedlings. We bring financing to fund the project up front, technical guidance, remote monitoring to verify the projects. We issue the carbon credits for them, and then most importantly, the offtake agreements for the wood. And then we share in the profits. So our model isn't hypothetical. My co-founder and I initially invested $1 million into the business 6 years ago, and we now have a platform that's ready to be scaled. So we've successfully implemented a flagship project that you see above in Northwest Argentina in Salta. That project's expected to generate $3 million in returns. And after publishing our Fortune 500 report, we organically generated around 250 million tons in terms of an annual footprint in interest from large corporates. We've got growers, land, and project financing lined up for our next project series. And we actually have phytosanitary approvals for the tree technology in about 39 countries. So another aspect of our business that we're really excited about is our Terra Nova OS. Having a lot of experience on the ground on agricultural projects, scaling these projects can be very, very challenging without technology. And so we're focused on training models using our own ground truth data, using AI, spectral satellite imagery, infrared, LiDAR, creating automated digital checklists for field teams. And in terms of increasing performance, we'll be able to reduce costs and measure the project impact. So lastly, building on a lot of the success that we've had, we're launching an innovative financing vehicle called RAF. It's Regenerative Afforestation Finance Trust. And the focus there is removing 100,000 families from poverty while generating institutional quality returns. So we feel today very strongly that generating profits right now is equal to generating emissions, and so we aim to flip that script, and I invite you to join us on this journey. I'm Philip Michael Weiner from Recapture. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Very inspiring, and having from the Amazon and working in the Amazon for a long time, it is extremely difficult to scale these types of products generally, and having known Recapture, and can you talk to me a little bit about where you're currently operating and how you're looking to scale?
So we're currently operating in an area of Northwest Argentina called Salta. This area has about 60,000 tobacco farming families that all live in these same conditions. And so there's a lot of access to land. Unfortunately, Salta, it's in the Gran Chaco forest region. It's the second largest forest in South America, but it's also losing about 131 square miles every single month. And so it is one of the most heavily deforested areas of the world. And so we really focused on a lot of these tobacco farmers in terms of generating livelihoods for them. A lot of the landowners, they don't actually want to be doing tobacco. The main issue in all of these areas like the Amazon is like you have 25 million people living in an area like the Amazon. If you don't give them essentially a profitable alternative to what they're doing right now, it just creates sort of that game of whack-a-mole. And so those are some of the areas that we're focused on right now. Thank you.
Really enjoyed it and super exciting. Love to hear more about customer acquisition. Like, is this something where you essentially sort of have to go sort of door to door, so to speak, talking to people about Recapture? How do you bring on new customers, and what's the typical profile? Is there a particular sort of size of land that you require to do this? How do you go about finding new customers?
So we have essentially figured out a couple things. One, that we have sort of a two-sided marketplace. And so we've created this financing vehicle to kind of tie those together. Essentially, how our process works is we will go out and speak with landowners, and we have a model that over the next 10 years, we're going to do about 4,000 to 5,000 hectares of projects. The way this really works is we'll go ahead and lease land from a landowner. We have access to a lot of land. Landowners are very interested in this because the typical tobacco or soybean or corn contract, it's just something that renews every year. And so they have no idea whether the corn farmer or the tobacco farmer is actually going to have a good harvest. So it creates a real issue for a landowner. So we're able to bring them a 22-year lease. The way it works for us is we'll fund the project, Recapture will fund the project on balance sheet. After a year, we sell that project into that financing vehicle that we've created. The financing vehicle has large corporates and institutional investors as equity owners in that. And they're able to essentially generate low-risk financial returns. So they buy into the contract rights of the project at a very low rate per tree. And then we buy it back from them because we already have offtake agreements in the end market at a much higher price later. So they're able to generate carbon credits every single year, financial returns around what we're projecting is between 13 and 20% IRR at the end. And they actually are part of an amazing story, which is increasing the incomes of these farmers. And so in the market, there's more demand than supply. And so there's a lot of interest. Same thing with the wood. Because there's more demand, we're able to generate offtake agreements for the wood and then offtake agreements for the projects right as soon as we're getting those projects in the ground.
As a very quick follow-up, curious how, when you're pitching that, how that initially was received, because I assume in many cases these are landowners who for generations have been farming a particular crop on their land, and now you're running them through a pretty sophisticated process about how they're going to do even better. Is there sort of a long lead time in educating people and getting comfortable with this, or is it now something that's more broadly accepted?
It's something that many farmers have wanted to do for a long time. They know the benefits of doing something like afforestation and forestry. Farmers are very analog and they're very unwilling to take risks. And so one of the things that we do first is we develop sort of a research and a flagship project in the community with informed consent. So a lot of these farming leaders can come and see how we're operating the project and see the prowess and then also the results. And it makes a huge impact in that. The other thing is we've had growers in Argentina fly up to our project to see what we're doing. The government is also talking about what we're doing. And so to give you an example, something like tobacco will generate about $2,500 in revenue per hectare per year. Something like afforestation, we're able to harvest the eco-timber, around $60,000 per hectare at scale. These farmers are not stupid. They're willing to grow a lot of different things. It's just they need the technical guidance to be able to do that, and they need the offtake agreement as well. So what large companies had brought them in the beginning was, hey, if you farm this, we'll give you an offtake for the actual leaves. It's just they didn't really have an alternative at the time. So it's really a couple things. They're looking for new models, and they also need the guidance as well, and we can provide both of those. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.